So are we concerned that letting Jarvan have 2 flags is a double standard?
You already made that joke.
God, that's actually pretty good.
I work with Freak, and that one is pretty good.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. So talking about turrets, we removed the slow and damage reduction from inhibitors. That's kind of a big deal. So what the hell, man? What's going on?
So actually, we really want split pushing to be more effective in League of Legends. We think, particularly if you look at the competitive meta, it's very, very death ball heavy, lots of 5v5 team fights, and teams that even try to split push tend to stall out really hard on the inhibitor turret. So we went really hard on this. We didn't just trim mechanics, because we didn't want you doing math. We didn't want you thinking, is my Deathmark going to kill him?
Yeah,
you're right, math is hard. We didn't want you thinking, is Deathmark still going to kill him with 5% less damage, 10%? Really? No, we don't want you to think about these mechanics. We want you to have a clear understanding of what your damage is going to do, and we want you to try more split pushers. In solo queue, in competitive, go see what happens.
I think this is cool, but my personal opinion is, because we've talked a couple times about how it's not really sure how much this will move the needle when things like Sivir, Righteous Glory on like Alistar and Maokai, like hard engage is still very much in, right? But I wonder if there aren't characters like Shen that kind of exist at the halfway point of like, is a really good split pusher, is a really good team fighter. Like, I feel like we may not see the Jaxes and stuff at first, even though he is getting like even a numerical buff this patch. But I wonder if teams don't try to employ a little bit more of that strategy with this change being the way that it is. And then seeing how it fits out and seeing where you can include like more damage heavy split pushers.
Right. I think there are a lot of things that need to happen to make split pushing optimal. Like if Righteous Glory didn't exist, and if we killed Sivir, and if Dragon wasn't nearly as valuable, yeah, you probably would split push a lot. We're not doing that.
Right.
But we are making it so I think it's a viable option given the right comp and the right champions. I mean, if your 4-man unit has Janna and mid Karma or something with a lot of disengage, and you have a very strong top lane split pusher, you can make it work. But I think there is a strong possibility we need to do more in the next couple of patches to make it happen.
You mentioned taking away a mechanic for defenders and their agency. Why do we feel like defenders should have like not a big high ground against their offenders?
Like I said, there are elements of defender's advantage. Your team can more easily rotate to defend you if you're losing against a split pusher. We have home guards. We have the base gates. The laser turret is very, very good at punishing mistakes if they try to dive you and stuff like that. The damage is really high. So I think the defender overall has the advantage, but it shouldn't have such a huge advantage that it will make up for any other advantage the attacker has built up over the course of the game. If I've won my lane and top lane, I've been getting a lot of CS, I've been getting a lot of items. I'm level 15 and you're level 12 defending. That should be enough, right? I still think like a level 15 versus level 15 with equal items, the defender's probably going to win.
I want to move on so that we don't spend a million years speaking about this thing. I do want to give you a chance to speak about something though, which is Runeglaive, right? It's taking the place of Magus. We made this change to do what?
We wanted to add diversity to the jungle, similarly to the way in which we brought in Juggernaut when we made Cinderhulk to like let more people use it. Right now, the problem with Magus is that it doesn't actually make you able to clear the jungle if you couldn't already. It just gives you a very, very large stat infusion as a reward for doing it. So if you're Nidalee, if you're Fiddlesticks, if you could already clear the jungle, here's 80 AP and 20
just go spear dudes or crowstorm people forever and just win.
And you'll notice that Fiddlesticks among the highest win rate solo queue junglers in our game. Nidalee has been very strong for a while. When this item gets purchased, it's extremely powerful, but very few people can use it.
Right.
And so instead of leaving it in the game and having that balance point that we have to tune around, we decided we're going to replace it entirely with Runeglaive so we can offer an item that a lot of people can use. So now, like, Nidalee already likes this item. Fiddlesticks still uses this item, right? Like, between drains, he'll auto for the mana back and just AoE the small camps down without having to use Dark Wind. Diana might be in with this. Fizz, Evelynn, Karma jungle might be back. We've seen Malzahar in places.
Karma.
No.
Somewhere Diamond Prox is smiling. He's
right.
Like, yes.
Yeah. We've seen Malzahar jungle. Like he has the mana to keep the Voidling tanking the entire time when he gets this.
Jeevan's trying to act cool about Malzahar jungle. He's like, oh, we've seen Malzahar jungle. Jeevan got 16 kills in a playtest, just waiting in bushes for people to show up and then just optic blasting them out of nowhere.
I punished Pliff for playing Nidalee and existing, basically.
Okay.
So
I'll allow it.
we were actually pretty encouraged after that playtest.
God, I was so salty about that game.
I really, really like Runeglaive. I think it's a really awesome item. You don't, the big problem was, as a mage, you're like, I need these blue buffs. These are my blue buffs, but your mid laner wants them.
Right. Yeah.
So you're hoping it's a Yasuo or somebody who doesn't use it.
Yeah.
But the thing here that I'm concerned about, my only big concern with Runeglaive, I think it's really good all around, is that these junglers, you're saying it enables them to help them jungle, right? Getting to the point where you actually purchase Runeglaive, you're like, okay, I backed after a very horrible clear, I got my first jungle item. Now I have to clear, gank with a pretty poor kit for ganking, to get a sheen, to then get this item. So that gap for all these junglers is gonna be very punishable. You're invadable by most meta junglers. You're very punishable in that window. I think that's the only problem I foresee here, is that the people who were actually already good at that already and surviving are just gonna become that much better.
So we explored options of making the early clear for these mages a little better, and then when we thought about it, we're like, do we really want to remove the disadvantages of putting a mage in the jungle, because they tend to scale well off gold? If you could hide certain vulnerable ones out of lane and come to a lane when you gank with a huge amount of burst and CC, that's something we were pretty scared of. So we think it is healthy for them to have a difficult first clear. I think a lot of them can get through it if they get help and a decent leash, but they are very vulnerable to the Lee Sins of the world. Sure, that is, I think, a cost they pay, but they actually have a decent item growth path now, I think, where a lot of them literally wouldn't actually be able to jungle, right? So if you tried to run jungle brand, you got Magus, you still got decked by the jungle and you still ran out of mana.
Yeah, you basically had to just chain gank if you wanted to do it.
But now you can actually clear, you get the AoE, so you can burst down the camp very quickly without taking damage, and you don't feel bad about spending mana. We want you to cast spells as a jungler when you're a mage jungler, right? And you shouldn't feel like that was a penalty.
Okay.
We have Elise changes, and you actually played her today. You did go Runeglaive, so in general, how do you feel about these changes to Elise? Because I think we can all agree she's not really in a great spot right now. Feelings?
I think that she's in a great spot after these buffs. And the fact that it's like pretty much 3 simultaneous buffs. Runeglaive gives her another option in the jungle, a lot of damage to actually burst somebody. She's in a place where she's going to have a lot of sustain. She's going to make up late game damage with the fact that her E now gives her more damage by maxing it. Yeah. And you can take a different smite with Runeglaive. You don't have to take Trailblazer. You can be like, challenging smite. Now I'm killing squishies. Now I'm a backline threat. So I feel like Elise, just in general after this patch, is going to be in a much better spot. She's not going to be sitting at that bottom of the tier. She's going to be a great pick comp champion.
What I really like about her damage output now is, like, it's still, especially with Runeglaive, it's a little more front-loaded. It is kind of like right as you start getting points into Cocoon, it's just like a whole blast of spell damage, and she still has the dominance being a form swapper.
Her on-hit is really good, too, with attack speed from Skittering Frenzy. Like, she's going to do a lot of damage.
But I guess that's the thing that I like about the repel change, is because it's after you use it, right? In a majority of cases, for her to follow up and kind of fill the time with that damage output, she's like on top of you. It's like peelable. It's something you can knock away, where I think in the past, like if you imagine pre-nerf Elise, like God mode Elise, it was like you get cocooned and then she will kill you in that cocoon, right? It's like take a huge amount of damage, from there, right? Where now this is a little bit of a follow-up, is like, not only can I escape, maybe my team can help, and if you're just like a strong melee champion as well, it says, well, now's my time to try to make something happen, right?
A lot of the power we gave to Elise only comes when she repels on top of you, which means she is not planning for her escape with repel. She's taking a risky move, and I think that's something that we're a lot more comfortable making her strong at, as opposed to the old Elise that was kind of like ball of stats, walk up to you and then just exit whenever she felt like it with repel. And on top of that, I think she does have a lot of the attributes that made her really strong with the new sustain mechanic. The early game pressure is real with Elise now, right? She has a lot of versatility of where she ganks, which camp she takes, and that is sort of like a niche that Rek'Sai occupies. I think she'll be maybe the more mage version of it. But this is a lot of what people came to expect out of Elise, and I think people should be pretty excited about the changes.
Last big thing that I want to get to, Rise.
I never seen that guy in a game. Oh wait, he was
banned every game.
Yeah, he was. Hopefully at least. So yeah, Rise has been going out of control. People are angry, and I think rightly so, about his existence. So I think people are looking very much forward to the Rise nerfs. So tell me, for a champion that has been up and down, like he's either top of the list or bottom of the list, like, are we sending him back there again? Is that the deal? Is we're just like banished to the Shadow Realm? What's happening?
So we don't want to kneecap him in any sense, right? I think right now he's probably a little too strong. I saw some clip of Huni just outplaying someone really hard and killing him, so I'm like, yeah, he's not that far off.
Outplaying.
Right.
Yeah, well, Huni is a very good player.
The guy didn't try to move, so obviously he screwed up. But I would say that he's obviously way overtuned right now, and we need to bring him back down to earth, but he is a late game hyper carry. That is what the definition we have molded him into, and he is going to be really strong when he gets levels. This version, I think, this change list is a little complicated to read. It largely addresses the perma-root case. It's much lower duration, even in his optimal case, for putting a lot of W's on you. And it's very firmly gated by him getting levels. So the cooldown reduction is passive is tied to his Q rank up, so that has to be at level 9 to really do a lot. Also, his R cooldown reduction at level 6, 11, and 16 are also other gates to it. So he's still going to be a really scary dude when you get golden levels into him, but it's going to happen later in the game, and it's not going to be like Ryze got a kill from his jungler top lane, Catalyst, Tears came back to lane, and the game's over. That shouldn't happen.
So when he hits level 13, and I played against him, he's still very threatening. I felt like I could barely move. That Merc Treads was I have to buy this item in order to even play against Ryze. Even if there was like 280 threats on the enemy team, like have to buy Merc Treads against him. And I still felt like I was getting very close to perma-rooted. The fact that he has so much movement speed on his R as well meant escaping him was very difficult. So when we're looking at Ryze and we're like, oh, this kind of accident happened that ended up being something for him, we're like, oh, maybe he should be able to perma-root people a little bit. Is that like the direction we're going in here? Because it's not very fun to play against. It's very frustrating.
So one of the cool things with the Ryze update is he really feels super machine gunny now when he gets in his passive. And for us to support that, he has to throw a lot of roots at you, right? Because he is going to be chain casting spells. We have largely mitigated how effective each individual root is from Rune Prison. He is still going to root people for a decent amount of time, and we're okay with that. That is one of the strengths that we want him to showcase, particularly as the game goes on. But what's important for us is it probably can't be too oppressive, and it can't happen too early in the game.
Yeah.
I did want to go back to the fact that the patch, Huni went crazy on it and stuff like that. How did we not catch this? How did this slip by that maxing W and actually getting a perma root off, and then we're like, oh, that should be his pattern. Why aren't we able to catch these things in time?
So I would say, first of all, that was a failure on our part, just straight up. That we probably shouldn't have put him out in that state, and that's something that we've reviewed as to how it got to that point. One of the reasons why it happened was that the perma-root ability for him was possible when he was released, when everyone thought he was trash, right? So a lot of people didn't want to pick up the new Ryze and explore what they could abuse with him and see the mechanics that made him particularly powerful, because overall I think he was tuned a little low. And at that point, we made some pretty severe changes in response to bring up some of his weak areas. When we brought up some of his weak areas to par, the teeth, like the perma-root and the incredible damage, was exposed, right? So they were there, but we weren't sure how consistent and how easy they would be to pull off, and how strong he would be in his passive, for example, for you to not be able to play against him. So I think we knew we were bringing up some of the strengths that we thought were powerful, but the total recipe we didn't really calculate very well. It's interesting when you do a very, very fundamentally complex change that we did to Ryze, where the mechanics on it were very, very nuanced, and some of that is really hard for us to tune properly, honestly. We have a lot of internal feedback on how this is supposed to work and how strong it is, but the amount of games we had on any champion in development is outnumbered in the first few minutes they hit live, right? I mean, just in terms of pure games played by our players, and that's really when we see a lot of these things. So we really want to minimize stuff like this, where it's like this guy was way off, but we learn a lot every time we release something new,
Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, Ryze, why is he released like this? This is terrible. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like a strong enough, because my gut reaction is first get back down there, get back at the 40% win rate, get out of my games. But the fact that you're like, okay, he'll turn on later. He is a hyper carry by our definition of it. So let him be a hyper carry just later in the game. So having the perma root still exist, I can kind of accept that. It's kind of frustrating to play against still. But that's, I guess, part of his pattern is he's supposed to frustrate you just like a Vayne who tumbles around you and you're a Caitlyn, right?
I didn't notice this Ryze is on the,
I know.
The background here.
He's over my shoulder. I'm talking shit about Ryze. I'm like, he's right behind me.
He's level 13 now, dog. He's about to go in on the roots, man.